There are still deep-rooted rumours about a Beatles album that was recorded between the months of February and May 1969. An issue of the music magazine Rolling Stone, September 17, 1970, first brought attention to this mysterious album, but the article was swamped with various and vague information, presenting what seemed to be a puzzle to Beatles fans. Of course, as with any good unsolved puzzle, it became a legend. Hello and welcome back to The Good, the Bad and the Ugly Show, and today we're talking about the legend of a Beatles album. The album, in fact, we're talking about here is Hot as Sun. Now, it's the one you've all heard of, right? Between the White Album and Abbey Road? Not quite. According to the rumours, the master tape of the Beatles' next album was stolen by an unidentified member of the Abbey Road studio personnel and asked for a large amount of money from the Beatles for its safe return. The thief is then said to have mistakenly carried the tapes through an airport X-ray machine, where they were promptly wiped clean. Of course, a legend such as this seems to deliberately seal the fate of the missing album, assuring that its mysterious content would never reach the ears of curious fans. So here's why we think that's bollocks. Okay, so this album, right, so this was supposed to have been recorded, like I said earlier on, between, just need to try and focus in on this, the summer of 1969. That would have been the same time, or just after, that would have been after they had recorded the postponed Get Back album. So in early January 1969, they started to work on the Get Back project, which was going to be called 30 Days also at one point. It was basically a back to the roots, no psychedelia, no kind of messages, just back to straightforward kind of rock and roll like they used to make. The album cover was going to be a take on the Please Please Me album cover with them all on the staircase. Yes, that just got postponed and never used. Several mixes of the album were made. It was condensed down to kind of, I don't know, about 30 minutes. Many bootlegs of the Get Back album have materialised over the years. Here is one that I happened to pick up from an unknown place several years ago. So there we go. This has like the whole thing. This has all different like versions of The Walk and Get Back and all that stuff on there. It's quite long. It's made to look quite a good album. It's a bit of a mess, to be honest. There were several different versions of this made. There was originally a proposed album that came out of all the source material. And that was mixed by Glyn Johns, that's right. He recorded the second mix that was released in January the 5th. Well, not released. That was mixed in January the 5th, my birthday, 1970. Not my birthday. So, this was the proposed album that would have eventually gone out. So he did a first one, which is pretty much this album, what's on here, and the Beatles didn't like it, and no one liked it. It sounded rough, it sounded a bit bad, like it was recorded during sessions, none of the songs are complete. So they made a second version of it here, which they kind of put the songs in a better order. It still had weird things on it, like Save the Last Dance for Me, a cover that lasts like 20 seconds, and Rocker, which is like 34 seconds. Weird thing to put on the album. I know eventually Maggie Made, it was on the album, and that was like, 37 seconds as well. But I think when you got a whole bunch of them, it's a bit worse. When you have one, you're like, okay, that's an oddity, but we can keep that. But yeah, they weren't happy with it, and they sacked him, and they hired Phil Spector, who came in, and he made the final album that got released, which Paul McCartney hated, but there was a big divide going on anyway, involving certain lawyers and people who were supposed to manage the band, like the rest. Like Paul McCartney wanted to go with Linda McCartney's dad, and the rest of the Beatles wanted Alan Klein, who was the Rolling Stones manager, and it got into a big legal battle, and it all went a bit sour. That kind of happened over this album. But anyway, this took up basically all of January and pretty much the subsequent months that followed it. You'll notice on this version it has I Me Mine, which is the original short version of it. That was never going to be on the album or across the universe. These things were finished later on and stuck on, kind of taxed on to make the album last longer. Anyway, this is a very good bootleg as well, brought out by Strawberry Records. Clever. Get Back second mix with the other songs that I added on. Okay, so there we go. So that was all done, and then they had a bit of a hiatus. So also, I'd like to mention, if you want to hear not the full, but most of the Get Back session stuff, you can get this album. I won't tell you where to buy it because it's all legal and stuff. But the Ultimate Get Back Sessions collection. Here we go with Don't Let Me Down and 187 other songs. That's right. This is like a PC CD. You put this into your computer and it has like I don't know, something like 20-something files of albums of huge discs worth of like loads and loads and loads of Beatles stuff from this time. I mean, you'll notice also that all the covers are a bit different. The photo session must have lasted a while because, there we go. But yeah, so this will take about a couple of weeks to get through, and probably all of your stamina. This is even tricky for the hardcore Beatle fans. But currently, obviously, Peter Jackson is, well, he just finished it actually. He's finished making a new version of the Let It Be documentary, which is now called Get Back again, and it takes it into more of a kind of happy place. So apparently we're going to see the fun, happy side of the recording rather than the miserable thing that was Let It Be, that got released by Michael Lindsay Hogg back in 1970. But I digress, as usual. So we go back to Hot as Sun. So that would have meant that this album was quickly shoveled together and would have been released a few months later on. So track-wise, what have we got? We've got Maxwell's Silver Hammer starting it off. Okay, that's feasible. Don't Let Me Down, yeah. I mean, the thing with shelved albums is they usually don't release the songs from it. They usually put them on hold as well and decide what they're going to do. So a brand new album would have probably come along. But anyway, some of these songs appeared on Abbey Road, so it's not quite correct. But yeah, let's talk about that as well. So, okay, we've got songs like Hot as Sun, which is an unfinished thing that Paul McCartney made. Eventually, that became a song called Hot as Sunglasses and was released on McCartney, the first solo McCartney album. Junk was also released on that album as well. So these were songs that had been knocking around for a while. Junk was originally recorded in 1968. The same for Polythene Pam and Mean Mr. Mustard, which is also on here. That's also a song that's been knocking around for a while. Other tracks on here are just jams, like I Should Like to Live Up a Tree. Zero is Just Another Even Number. Proud As You Are, Watching Rainbows. These are all songs that would never become anything else because they were simply just jams they made in the studio. I mean, bits of them I think were reused as other songs, but yeah, not a lot. Anyway, the Beatles were having legal battles and didn't like each other for a while, and eventually they decided to get back together and to record a final album to go out on a high, and that's where Abbey Road came from. So the idea of Abbey Road was to get George Martin back as the producer and to make a good old-fashioned Beatle album that would leave them in a good place, and that was the plan. But obviously, eventually, later on, in 1970, after like legal battles and other stuff, the rest of the Beatles decided to get together and to release Let It Be. Kind of ruined the legacy slightly, because now you're ending on a weird album that doesn't sound quite complete and doesn't sound quite right, and one of the members doesn't like. So they could have left it on Abbey Road, and that would have been like their swan song, but instead they kind of released this album that they weren't really happy with. So, in hindsight, it might have actually been better if they just left the album unreleased until years later when they released Let It Be Naked, which was a far superior, mix, because that was more in tone to what they wanted. But then again, lots of people love Let It Be. I like it. I enjoy it. So, why not? And getting back to Hot as Sun again, I keep digressing into other stuff. So Hot as Sun, I mean, it's a good story, it's a funny story, and when there's so many Beatle bootlegs out there, I mean, these things were out there back in even 1969, there were tapes of Beatle bootlegs circulating, because, that was the year when bootlegs became really, really big. There were lots out there. Bob Dylan ones, there were Jimi Hendrix ones. If you look up the bootleg thing online, you'll find the sweet history of it all. I mean, Let It Be was released as a bootleg before the album was ever finished, and it was called Come Back, and Come spelt like K-U-M. Weird. I have it somewhere, but I'd have to dig out that. But anyway, you'll notice the plot sounds very similar to Paul McCartney's Give My Regards to Broad Street, which I believe he probably based that on this. He probably heard the story and saw the bootleg album and thought, that's kind of funny, I might make a film about it. And why not, His next film will probably be about, how he died in 1969 and was replaced by an imposter who was a member of a Beatles tribute band. But that's another story. So anyway, if you ever want to listen to this album, it's probably on YouTube somewhere. So that was a review there on the legend that is the Beatles' Hot as Sun, a living legend that will live long after lots of other living legends have died. So we are The Good, the Bad and the Ugly Show. You can find us on Phonic FM 106.8 every Thursday lunchtime 12 till 2. Be sure to tune in and please subscribe to our channel as well. If you can do that, that'd be great. And like this video if you liked it. If you didn't like it, then don't like it. No, scrap that. If you don't like it, ignore us. So, this is The Good, the Bad and the Ugly Show, signing out.